The sound of the key scratching in the lock wasn't the scary part. It was the smirk on Gage's face.
Your
when he
baby's
told
crib
me
is going
my
to look
baby's
real
crib
nice
was
sitting
going
on the
to
wet
look
sidewalk
real
in the
nice
rain.
sitting on the wet sidewalk in the rain. He didn't care that it was storming outside, and he definitely didn't care that I had the money in
Take
my
it,
hand.
please.
He just wanted to
I
see
don't
me
need your money!
Open up, Michaela. I know you're in there. The fist banging on the door shook the whole frame. Dust fell from the top of the door jamb, drifting down like snow. I held my breath. I was standing in the middle of the living room, holding my 3-year-old son, Braxton, tight against my chest. "Mama?" Braxton whispered, his big eyes wide with fear. "Who is that?" "Shh, baby, it's just the bad man," I whispered back, smoothing his hair. "Go in your room and put on your headphones. Watch your tablet. Mama will handle it." Braxton nodded and ran to his room. I waited until I heard his door click shut. Then I took a deep breath, fixed my shirt, and unlocked the front door. Gage was standing there. He was a big guy, tall and wide, wearing a dirty baseball cap and a stained t-shirt. He always smelled like old cigarettes and sour coffee. He didn't look like a landlord. He looked like a bully who never grew up. "About time," Gage spat, stepping into my apartment without asking. He looked around with a sneer. "Place is a dump." "It's clean, Gage," I said, keeping my voice steady. "And you can't just barge in here. I have rights." "Rights?" Gage laughed. It was a dry, ugly sound. "You got rights when you pay the rent on the 1st. Today is the 5th, Michaela. You know what that means." "I have the money," I said. I walked over to the small table by the kitchen and picked up an envelope. I had worked double shifts at the warehouse for 3 weeks straight to get this cash. My feet were swollen and my back felt like it was on fire, but I had it. "Here, full rent plus the late fee." I held the envelope out to him. Gage looked at the envelope. Then he looked at me. He didn't take it. Instead, he slapped the envelope out of my hand. The cash spilled onto the floor. Green bills scattered over the worn-out carpet. "I don't want your money," Gage said, crossing his arms. "I want you out." My heart stopped. "What? You can't do that. I'm paying you." "I can do whatever I want. It's my building," Gage said. He leaned in close, invading my personal space. "See, I got big news. I'm selling this whole crumbling pile of bricks. I got a buyer lined up. Some big company wants to tear it down or fix it up, I don't care. But they want it empty. And you're the last roach I need to squash." "I am not a roach," I said, my voice shaking. "I am a mother, and we have a lease." "Lease, Gage mocked. "You're late. That breaks the lease. I talked to my buddy who's a sheriff deputy. He said if you're late, I can start the process. I want you gone by Friday." "Friday?" I yelled. "That's 2 days away. Where am I supposed to go with a little boy?" "Not my problem," Gage said. He turned and kicked at one of Braxton's toy trucks that was on the floor. "Go to a shelter. Go to the park. Just get out of my building. If you ain't gone by Friday at noon, I'm coming in here with a crew and we're putting everything you own on the curb." He turned around and walked out, slamming the door so hard the pictures on the wall rattled. I stood there for a long time, staring at the door. My hands were shaking. I looked down at the money on the floor. It felt useless now. I fell to my knees and started picking up the bills, one by one. I needed every dollar. Tears stung my eyes, but I wiped them away quickly. I couldn't cry. Crying didn't pay bills, and crying wouldn't save us. Gage thought he was the king of the world because he owned this rundown building. He thought he could treat people like trash because he had a set of keys. He didn't know who he was messing with. I stood up and put the money back in the envelope. Then I went to the kitchen and pulled my phone out of my purse. I dialed a number I had saved simply as Tucker. It rang 3 times. "Hello, this is Tucker," a deep voice answered. "Hey, Tucker, it's Michaela. Is everything still on track?" "Oh, hi, Michaela," Tucker said. He sounded cheerful. "Yes, ma'am, everything is looking good. The bank finalized the transfer regarding the LLC this morning. We're just waiting for the final signature from the current owner to close the deal on the deed transfer. He thinks he's selling to a faceless corporation." He just came to my door, I said, looking out the window at the gray sky. He told me I have to be out by Friday. He threw my rent money on the floor. He what? Tucker's voice got serious. That's illegal, Michaela. He can't evict you that fast. He doesn't care about the law, Tucker. He thinks I'm just a broke single mom who won't fight back, I said. He said he's selling the building. He told me he needs it empty for the new owner. Tucker chuckled. Well, that's ironic. Yeah, I said. Listen, can we speed this up? I need those papers signed. I need this done before Friday at noon. I'm meeting with him tomorrow at 10. He thinks I'm the representative for Oakley Holdings. He has no idea you're the one behind the company. Good, I said. Don't let him know. I want to see his face. I want to see his face when he realizes. Don't worry, Michaela. We got this. You just sit tight. Don't let him scare you. I'm trying, I said. I hung up the phone. I wasn't just a warehouse worker. Gage didn't know that my grandmother had passed away 6 months ago. He didn't know that she had left me a life insurance policy and a small house down south that I sold. He didn't know that I'd been saving every dime, eating noodles and walking to work so I could invest in something real. I wanted to buy this building, not just to live in it, but to fix it, to make it a real home for the other families here, families that Gage had been bullying for years. But right now, I was still just a tenant, and he was still the landlord. The next morning, the harassment got worse. I was getting Braxton ready for daycare when the water stopped working. I turned the handle in the sink. Nothing, not a drop. I checked the hallway. Mrs. Kinsler, the sweet old lady in 2B, was standing by her door in her road. Michaela, she called out, you got water? No, ma'am, I said. It's off. That man, she shook her head. Gage. I saw him in the basement near the pipes. He's doing this on purpose. I felt the anger rising in my chest like hot lava. He was cutting the water to force us out. It was cruel. I walked down the stairs, holding Braxton's hand. I saw Gage standing in the lobby, leaning against the wall, playing on his phone. Turn the water back on, Gage, I said. He looked up and smirked. Oh, is it off? Must be a plumbing issue. Old pipes, you know. Probably won't get fixed until, I don't know, Saturday? Unless the building is empty, then the new owners can fix it. He was lying, and he was enjoying it. My son needs to wash his face, I said through gritted teeth. Buy a bottle of water, Gage laughed, or better yet, move out. I squeezed Braxton's hand. Come on, baby. We walked past him. As I pushed open the front door, Gage called out behind me. Tick-tock, Michaela. Friday's coming. Don't get comfortable. I walked to the bus stop, my heart pounding. He thought he had all the power. He thought he was winning. I looked down at my phone. A text from Tucker came in. Meeting at 10 a.m. I have the papers. Stay strong. I took a deep breath. Gage was going to be sorry. He was going to be very, very sorry. But first, I had to survive the next 24 hours without him throwing my life onto the street. Later that night, after Jace and Bryn had slept, Peyton sat at her small kitchen table. The only light came from the screen of her laptop. She took a sip of water and looked around the room. There was a crack in the ceiling that Gage promised to fix 2 years ago. The carpet was worn down in the hallway. The radiator rattled every time the heat kicked on. To anyone looking in, this was the home of a woman who was struggling, a woman who was barely scraping by. But then Peyton looked back at her computer screen. She clicked open her banking app. The numbers on the screen told a different story. $2.450 million. She wasn't broke. She wasn't struggling. She was a millionaire. It hadn't always been this way. 3 years ago, Peyton really was desperate. She was working double shifts at a diner, her feet aching every night, worrying about how to pay for Jace's school clothes. She was tired and scared. But Peyton had a secret talent. She was good with numbers and she was good at finding deals. Late at night, when the kids were sleeping, she started a little website. She wrote about how to save money, how to use coupons, and how to fix things yourself. It was just a hobby at first. Then it exploded. People loved her simple advice. Companies started paying her to advertise. Then she started buying and selling stocks online. She had a knack for it. She turned a few $100s into a few thousand, then a few thousand into 100,000. Within 2 years, she had made more money than she ever dreamed of. Most people would have moved out immediately. They would have bought a big house on the hill and bought a fancy car. But Peyton was smart. She knew money could disappear just as fast as it came. She wanted to be sure. She wanted to save enough so that her kids would never, ever have to worry again. So she stayed. She kept her old car. She shopped at the discount grocery store. She kept living in apartment 2C. She wanted Jace and Bryn to stay humble. She didn't want them to become spoiled. But there was another reason she stayed. She stayed because of Gage. She watched how he treated people. She watched him yell at old Mrs. Patterson when her check was 1 day late. She watched him refuse to fix the leaky roof for the Dawson family. She saw the way he sneered at the single moms and the elderly folks who lived in his building. He was a bully, and Peyton hated bullies. A month ago, she found out Gage was secretly trying to sell the building.
He wanted to cash out and retire to a beach somewhere, but he wanted to sell it empty. He thought the building was worth more if he kicked all the poor people out first. That's why he was evicting everyone. He wanted to hand over a vacant building to the new owner. When Peyton saw the listing online, she knew what she had to do. She called a lawyer named Colton. Colton was the best in the city. She told him to make an offer on the building, a cash offer, full price. But there was one condition. The buyer had to remain anonymous. The name on the paperwork was just a company name, Oak Tree Holdings. Gage had no idea that Oak Tree Holdings was actually the woman in apartment 2C. He just saw the dollar signs. He signed the papers so fast his pen almost caught fire. Peyton closed her laptop and sighed. She walked to the window and looked out at the street below. She could have moved to a mansion, but she bought this crumbling brick building instead. She bought it for Mrs. Patterson. She bought it for the nice family in 4B. She bought it so that nobody would ever have to be afraid of a knock on the door again. The next morning, the tension in the building was thick. Peyton walked downstairs to check her mail. Gage was in the lobby. He was talking to a man in work boots, a contractor named Brody. "Yeah, we're gonna gut the whole place," Gage was saying, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Tear out these old walls. Put in granite counters. We'll double the rent once the trash is taken out." He saw Peyton and smirked. "Packing your boxes, Peyton?" he asked. "Tick-tock, you got less than 48 hours now." Peyton tightened her grip on her mail. "I'm not going anywhere, Gage." "Oh, you're going," Gage laughed. "The sheriff is already scheduled for Friday morning, noon sharp. If you aren't out, they'll drag you out." He turned back to Brody. "These tenants, they think they own the place. Can't wait to see the look on her face when the lock gets changed." Brody looked uncomfortable. He glanced at Peyton, then down at his boots. "Maybe we should discuss this outside, Gage." "Nah," Gage said, puffing out his chest. "Let her hear it. Reality check." Peyton walked past them, head held high. Her heart was pounding, but not from fear. It was pounding from anger. She went back upstairs and called Colton. "Is everything set?" she asked as soon as he answered. "It's done," Colton said. His voice was calm and professional. "The deed was recorded this morning. The funds have been transferred. Legally, you are the owner of the building as of 9 a.m. today." "Does Gage know?" "Not yet. He knows the sale closed, but he thinks he's meeting a representative from the holding company on Friday at noon to hand over the master keys." "Friday at noon," Peyton repeated, "the exact time he told me the sheriff is coming." "That's right. He wants to do a final walkthrough with the new owner and show them that the unit is empty. He thinks he's impressing the new boss by clearing you out." "He's in for a surprise," Peyton said. "I'll be there with the paperwork," Colton assured her. "Just sit tight. Let him dig his hole." Peyton hung up the phone. She looked around her living room. The boxes weren't packed. The pictures were still on the walls. For the next 2 days, Gage made her life miserable. He turned off the hot water in her unit, claiming it was a maintenance emergency. He parked his car directly behind hers so she couldn't get out to go to the store. He even taped a second eviction notice to her door just to be mean. Every time she saw him, he pointed at his watch. 1 day left, he'd say. 12 hours. Tomorrow is the big day, Peyton. Hope you like sleeping under a bridge. He was enjoying it. It was a game to him. He felt powerful. On Thursday night, the night before the deadline, Peyton sat Jace and Bryn down on the couch. Tomorrow is going to be a little crazy, she told them. Mr. Gage is going to come here and he's going to be very loud. Bryn looked scared. Is he going to take our home? Peyton pulled her daughter into her lap. No, sweetie, nobody is taking our home. In fact, we're going to make sure nobody ever bothers us again. How? Jace asked. Mama has a surprise, Peyton said, a small smile playing on her lips. A very big surprise. I need you two to trust me. When he comes tomorrow, I don't want you to be scared. I want you to watch. Okay, Mama, Jace said. Peyton sent them to bed and then sat in the dark living room one last time. She could hear Gage downstairs in the manager's office, probably counting his money and laughing about the trash he was going to throw out tomorrow. She looked at the clock. Midnight. Friday had arrived. The 72 hours were almost up. Gage thought he was coming to end her life here. He thought he was coming to destroy her. He didn't know he was walking into a trap that had been set for weeks. Peyton went to her closet and pushed aside her old hoodies and jeans. In the back, covered in plastic, was a sharp navy blue business suit she had bought online. She hadn't worn a suit in years. She brushed her hand over the fabric. Tomorrow, Gage wasn't going to see the single mom from apartment 2C. He wasn't going to see the woman who begged for an extension on her rent. Tomorrow, he was going to meet his boss. The clock on the kitchen wall ticked. Tick, tock, tick, tock. It was 11:55 a.m. Peyton stood in front of the hallway mirror. She smoothed down the front of her navy blue suit. It fit her perfectly. It made her look tall. It made her look strong. She wasn't wearing her usual worn-out sneakers. She was wearing black heels that clicked with authority when she walked. Mama, you look like a movie star, Bryn said from the couch. I feel like one, baby. Is he coming? Jace asked. He was trying to be brave, but his leg was bouncing up and down. He'll be here any second, Peyton said calmly. Remember what I said. Don't say a word, just watch. At exactly 12 p.m., the heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. There wasn't just one person, there were several. Then came the pounding. Bang, bang, bang. Sheriff's Department, a deep voice yelled. Open the door. Peyton took a deep breath. She walked to the door, unlocked it, and swung it wide open. The hallway was crowded. Gage stood right in front, wearing his best gray suit and a bright red tie. He looked like he was ready to accept an award. Next to him was a large police officer, Sheriff Tucker. Behind them, peering out from their cracks in the doors, were the neighbors. Mrs. Patterson looked terrified. The young couple from 4B looked sad. Gage's eyes went wide when he saw Peyton. He looked her up and down, taking in the expensive suit and the heels. For a second, he looked confused. Then he sneered. Look at this, Gage laughed loudly so everyone could hear. Spending your last dime on a fancy outfit. That won't save you. You can't dress your way out of being broke. He turned to the sheriff. This is her, Sheriff Tucker, the squatter I told you about. Rent is unpaid. Notice was served. Get her out. The sheriff was a big man with a kind face, but he looked serious today. He stepped forward. Ma'am, I have a court order here. If you haven't paid the arrears, you need to vacate the premises immediately. Peyton didn't move. She stood right in the doorway, blocking their path. I'm not going anywhere, Gage, she said. Her voice wasn't shaking. It was ice cold. Gage face turned red. You don't have a choice, he yelled. This is my building, and I have a meeting in 5 minutes with the new owner. I promised this unit would be empty. I'm not letting a deadbeat like you ruin my big sale. He checked his watch and looked down the hall toward the elevator. In fact, Gage said, fixing his tie, my lawyer and the buyer's representative should be here any second. I want you gone before they step off that elevator. I don't want them to see the trash I had to deal with. Just then, the elevator dinged. The metal doors slid open. Out stepped Colton. Colton looked like $1,000,000. He was carrying a thick leather briefcase. He walked down the hall with purpose, ignoring the peeling paint on the walls. Gage, his whole demeanor changed. He put on a fake, oily smile and rushed to shake Colton's hand. "Mr. Colton," Gage said, pumping the lawyer's hand, "so good to see you. Welcome, welcome. As you can see, I'm just handling a little pest control, getting this unit cleared out for your client, just like I promised." He pointed a finger back at Peyton. "This woman here has been a headache for years. Late payments, excuses, you know the type. But don't worry, the sheriff is tossing her out as we speak." Colton didn't smile. He didn't shake Gage's hand back. He just looked at Gage with a flat, bored expression. "Actually, Gage," Colton said, stepping past Gage, "there seems to be a misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" Gage laughed nervously. No misunderstanding. She didn't pay. She goes. Simple." "The misunderstanding," Colton continued, stepping past Gage, "is about who you are meeting today." Gage frowned. "Who am I meeting?" "I'm meeting the owner of Oak Tree Holdings, the investor who bought the building." "That's correct," Colton said. He walked right up to Peyton's door. Gage followed him. "Well, where is he? Is he downstairs?" Colton turned around. He stood next to Peyton. "Gage," Colton said, "I'd like to introduce you to the owner of Oak Tree Holdings." Colton gestured with his hand toward Peyton. "This is Peyton. She is the sole owner of Oak Tree Holdings. And as of 9 a.m. today, she is the sole owner of this building." The hallway went completely silent. You could hear a pin drop. Gage froze. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. He looked at Colton, then he looked at Peyton, then back to Colton. "What?" Gage whispered. That's a joke. That's funny." "It's not a joke," Peyton said. She reached into her purse, the same purse she had hidden the deed in for days. She pulled out the document and held it up. "This is the deed, Gage, and this is the transfer of funds. You got your money. The building is mine." Gage grabbed
paper from her hand. His hands were shaking so bad he almost ripped it. He scanned the lines, his eyes darting back and forth. He saw the company name. He saw the signature. Peyton Miller, CEO, Oak Tree Holdings. The color drained from his face. He looked like he was going to be sick. "No," he stammered. "No, this isn't possible. You're a waitress. You're broke. I've been chasing you for rent for years." "I was broke," Peyton corrected him. "Then I worked hard. I saved, and I invested. While you were busy bullying old ladies and refusing to fix the heat, I was building a business." She took a step forward, forcing Gage to take a step back. "I bought this building, Gage. Do you know why?" Gage couldn't answer. He was backed up against the wall now. Sweat was dripping down his forehead. "I bought it to protect these people from you," Peyton said. Her voice rang out in the hallway. "I bought it so Mrs. Patterson never has to worry about being homeless. I bought it so the Dawsons can have a roof that doesn't leak. And I bought it so I could do this." Peyton turned to Sheriff Tucker. "Sheriff," she said, "is it legal for a landlord to evict herself from her own building?" Sheriff Tucker looked at the deed. A slow grin spread across his face. He tipped his hat to Peyton. "No, ma'am," the sheriff said. "I reckon that's impossible. If you own the building, you can't be evicted for back rent. You'd just be paying yourself." He turned to Gage. "Looks like my work here is done. This eviction notice is invalid." But, Gage sputtered. "However," Peyton said, cutting him off, "there is one person who needs to leave." She looked Gage dead in the eye. "Gage, you're fired," she said. "As the property manager, you're done. I want your keys, I want your files, and I want you off my property. Now." "You can't do that," Gage yelled. "I know this building inside and out. You need me." "I don't need a bully. I need a community. Hand over the keys." Gage looked around for help. He looked at the sheriff. The sheriff just crossed his arms and stared at him. He looked at the neighbors. Mrs. Patterson had stepped out into the hall. She was smiling. The couple from 4B was clapping. Slowly, the applause started to grow. One neighbor, then two, then all of them. They were cheering. Gage realized he had lost, totally and completely. With a shaking hand, he reached into his pocket and pulled out the master keyring. He slammed it into Peyton's hand. "You'll fail," he spat. "This place is a dump. You'll go broke trying to fix it." "Maybe, but at least I'll sleep well at night, unlike you." "Sheriff," Peyton added, "would you mind escorting this trespasser out of my building?" "Be my pleasure, ma'am," Sheriff Tucker said. He grabbed Gage by the arm, not gently. "Let's go, Gage. Move it." Gage tried to pull away, but the sheriff was stronger. He marched Gage down the hall, past the cheering neighbors, and into the elevator. The doors closed, shutting off Gage's angry face forever. Peyton stood there in the silence that followed. She let out a long breath she felt like she had been holding for 3 days. "Mama!" Jace and Bryn ran out of the apartment and hugged her legs. Peyton dropped to her knees and wrapped her arms around them. "Did we win?" Jace asked. "Yeah, buddy," Peyton whispered, tears finally stinging her eyes. "We won." Colton cleared his throat politely. "Congratulations, Miss Miller. The building is officially under your control." Peyton shook his hand. "Thank you, Colton, for everything." She looked around the hallway. The neighbors were still standing there, looking at her with shock and hope. "Mrs. Patterson?" Peyton called out. The old woman stepped forward, clutching her shawl. "Yes, dear?" "Don't worry about your rent this month," Peyton said loudly so everyone could hear. "In fact, nobody pays rent this month. I'm going to use the profits to fix the roof, fix the heat, and fix the plumbing. We're going to make this place a real home again." Mrs. Patterson started to cry. She walked over and hugged Peyton tight. "Thank you," she sobbed. "Thank you." Peyton looked over Mrs. Patterson's shoulder at her open apartment door. She saw her plain furniture. She saw the crack in the ceiling. It wasn't a palace. It wasn't a mansion. But it was theirs. And for the first time in a long time, it was safe. The nightmare was over. Gage was gone. And Peyton knew that no matter what happened next, they were going to be okay. She wasn't just a tenant
We did
anymore.
it! The keys are
ours!
ours!
She was the landlady, and she was going to be the best one this town
Congratulations,
had
my
ever
dear.
seen.
Well done.